CBS is facing a $750 million defamation lawsuit over its TV special on the unsolved murder of JonBenet Ramsey. The case of JonBenet Ramsey, which aired in September, featured a team of investigators re-examining evidence from this 20-year-old cold case.
New this morning, the brother of JonBenet Ramsey is suing. He filed a defamation lawsuit in Michigan against a forensic pathologist. In the complaint, Burke Ramsey claims Dr. Werner Spitz told Detroit media that Burke...
The lawsuit alleges the experts and the program itself knew that Burke Ramsey had been excluded as a suspect by the authorities, but never made that clear to the viewer, and that their disclaimers shown at the very end of the 4-hour program was too little, too late.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
It's quite a conundrum Paramount Plus are facing, how to tell the Ramsey story honestly without being sued. Here is a short list of people the Ramseys have sued so far. In 1999, Star magazine for $25 million sued on behalf of their son Burke. 2001, the Ramseys sued Detective Steve Thomas. 2016, the Ramseys sued Werner Spitz for accusing Burke of killing his sister. 2016, the Ramseys sue CBS for allegations made in the case of JonBenet Ramsey for $750 million. From this short but nevertheless incomplete list, it's clear that Detective Steve Thomas's theory that Patsy did it was very upsetting to them, and since no one has been able to say conclusively that Patsy wrote the ransom note, this remains something of a legal mountain to climb. But that's not the only legal mountain. It's also clear that implicating Burke is legally fraught. Even if an argument is made one way or another, Colorado law doesn't recognize the actions of a child under 10 years old, no matter what they were. In this analysis, I want to make 5 recommendations to Paramount Plus for how to proceed with their docuseries in a way that will allow them to have peace of mind, legally speaking. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're finding this analysis interesting, worthwhile, important, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started.
Burke Ramsey is going to try to prove that CBS ignored typical journalistic standards.
So 5 recommendations to Paramount Plus. Now, I want to start off by saying, do the same journalistic standards apply to social media as they would to other media, let's say the mainstream media? And another way of putting it is, do the same journalistic standards apply to streamers? Are streamers considered social media or mainstream media? In the simplest sense, all Paramount Plus need to do is not do what CBS did. We'll drill into a few details, into a few specifics on what not to talk about in a moment. But if Paramount Plus have already completed filming and they'd like their limited series to see the light of day, I think the way to go is to simply cut out as many scenes that they can get away with involving JonBenet's brother. If this seems unfair or even disingenuous, the fact is JonBenet's brother is already very absent from her story as it is. So making him slightly more absent is definitely the legally safe route to go. And in that regard, I'd suggest, number 1, don't bring up the bowl of pineapple. Detective James Kolar mentions the bowl of pineapple on the glass table in the dining room in his book and on CBS, and it does seem to have some merit because pineapple fragments were found in JonBenet's stomach post-mortem. The part that's tougher to prove is whether JonBenet and her brother were eating pineapple at the same time. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Even if they were, whatever happened during that process is really little more than something one can speculate about. Number 2, the flashlight isn't the murder weapon. Personally, I thought it was absurd to suggest Burke reacted to JonBenet plucking a piece of pineapple out of his plate, and there just happened to be a flashlight at hand. I mean, if Patsy's fingerprints were on the bowl, what happened to her? Wasn't Patsy around as well? And the type of material and the shape of the flashlight in question simply, in my mind, wouldn't create the sort of idiosyncratic injury we see with JonBenet. It's idiosyncratic in the sense that, firstly, there's a tremendous amount of distributed force, but then secondly, there's also the failure to break the skin. I would wager if a flashlight was used, given its irregular shape, it would have caused the skin to break, and there would have been red liquid in JonBenet's hair, and there isn't. Also, the flashlight was undamaged and still operational after it was used. That seems somewhat unlikely as well. As far as I'm concerned, it's the psychology behind this scenario that's even more absurd than Patsy losing her temper over bedwetting. It's not just the murderous impulsivity that's being suggested, but this scenario also suggests that the ligature strangulation was entirely staged and occurred after death, which I don't believe is accurate either. So although this aspect is important, if you don't know how to interpret it, I'd say it's better to just leave it out completely. Number 3, don't go into Burke's backstory. Judith Phillips also made some claims on camera in the CBS series. It's not a matter of dispute that once upon a time Burke apparently struck his sister with a golf club. This happens in a lot of sibling-type situations. What is a matter of dispute is whether this was done on purpose or not. The answer is we just don't know. Again, although this aspect is important, if you don't know for sure what happened, it's probably safer to leave it out completely. Number 4, Burke and JonBenet's medical records. This is perhaps the most delicate area of all, best to avoid. And number 5, voices heard after the 911 call. This was another area highlighted by CBS. And here they tried to make the argument that certain things were said in the recording when, like Patsy's handwriting, nothing was completely clear one way or another. Even if you succeed on this point, it doesn't really prove anything, does it? So people were talking in the background. Does it really prove anything? Since we don't know for sure, it's probably safer to leave it out completely. Pontificating too much about Patsy being the ransom note writer, conclusively, could also land a narrative in hot water, so probably best to avoid that aspect as well.
In fact, it's better if you don't speak at all, Perkin.
Now, one narrative that has been dramatized with zero legal muss or fuss was Lauren Schiller's Perfect Murder, Perfect Town. It succeeds by telling a neutral story, neither offering an opinion on the intruder theory nor weighing in on the alternative. As narratives go, it's full of information, it's full of facts, but
a little anemic without the orchestra.
And I'm afraid that is what you're left with these days if you try to tell the story. It ends up being a little anemic. The alternative, of course, is to tell the story John has been telling of late. That's what Netflix did. Tell the DNA story, a story that at any moment there might be a breakthrough and the DNA might be matched at any time to any of a bunch of potential suspects on Lou Smith's list. It's sort of exciting if you've never heard it before. Trouble is, most of us have heard it 1,000,000 times now. It's a little like the McCann case, this idea that at any moment Madeleine might reveal herself and all will be revealed. Someone actually did that recently, claimed to be Madeleine, and she's in legal jeopardy herself, defending herself in court right now. So I think for Paramount Plus to avoid that situation, just tell the vanilla story. That might mean tearing up large pieces of the script, but if you want to tell these sorts of stories and legally live to tell the tale, it's about knowing which parts not to talk about. Now you might say that is a cop-out and, where does that really leave us? Well, I do think there's an incredible amount of information regarding this particular story. And in one particular area that I think is very underserviced are the peripheral characters in terms of this case. And that is something we're going to look into more detail, starting with one of the most underappreciated, underestimated investigators in this story, Detective Jane Harmer. And we'll be dealing with her vital role in the Ramsey investigation in the next episode. So look out for that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.